Hi Tubies, here's Alexandra and welcome to my next video. In this video I present to you my new invented game. I call it Warhammer the Gathering. You know Magic the Gathering, the card game. And you know Warhammer, the miniature game. This game is a combination of both card game and miniature game. So, basically, you take the standard rules of Magic the Gathering and combine them with a miniature tabletop gaming rules, and what you end up is this game. So, let's start with the rules. You see, in Magic the Gathering, you pay for everything you cast with mana. You have colorful mana in the 5 different colors: black, blue, white, green, and red. And this is here, for example, a red spell. Then we have here a white spell. Here's a black spell. Here's a colorless spell. So, in order to streamline that a little bit, I declared all mana to be colorless, be it here from the lands or each mana symbol. So that means if you want to cast a spell or a creature, in this game you pay for it in the converted mana cost. In this case 2, here 1, 1, this case here would be 4, 2, and so on. So then you create your deck. The deck must be 20, 40, 60 or 80 cards, depending on the size of the game that you intend to play. Spells allowed are instants and sorcery spells, like this here for example, which deal direct damage. So here for example a lightning bolt deals 3 damage to a creature or player, or this here the shock deals 2 damage to a creature or player. So only those spells are allowed. They have a 12-inch range and inflict the amount of d6 damage rolls named on the card. So, for example, here we have 3 damage points that are taken. In this case, that are then 3 dice that you can roll to determine the damage. A 4+ is always a success. So, in this case, we roll then 3 dice and, well, voila, no damage was dealt. Let's do that again. I think the dice are broken. Here for example we have dealt 2 damage. So you know how a damage roll is done now. So point 5. Stats of a creature are attack and wounds. So let's take a creature for example. Let's say the Canyon Minotaur. It is 3/3 creature. First stats are the attacks, and the last stat are the wounds, like in Magic the Gathering. So, each attack grants 1 dice roll to roll for damage in close combat. And each wound counter, is 1 life point. So, for example, we have here the Minotaur. Of course, this is an ogre. I don't have a Minotaur miniature, but sometimes you just simply say counts as. And then, for example, we take here this this wolf. Let's say this is here the Warclamp Mastiff. Those two would fight against each other. You look then on the cards. Here we have 3 attacks. The ogre would fight the dog with 3 dice. We roll, so he would inflict 1 damage point. And also the dog would strike back with 1 attack, also causing a wound. So that meaning the wolf has only 1 wound, he would be dead, and the ogre would remain with 2 life points on the battlefield until he is actually destroyed. Other than in Magic, the health is not regenerated unless the creature has the ability to regenerate, but we come to that later. Also, for this point, let's ignore the stat lines here like First Strike or other abilities. So, point number 6 is, like I said, a 4+ to wound. Once a creature is cast from your mage, it can move up to 6 inches. So just take your measuring instrument and move him up to 6 inches on the battlefield. You can move him like that, or the full distance. Always measure from the front of the base to the front of the base. So this would be right. This would be also right. But if you measure like that, that would be wrong. So you would have moved too far. But this is standard stuff from all the miniature games that you know. So, if a creature is in base contact with an enemy creature, they fight. So, for example, we have here this dog on the battlefield, and the skeleton warrior here is close by. He moves 6 inches, touches the base, and then they fight in the close combat phase. So, if a creature wants to pass through a creature, that's not that easy, because each creature has a 2-inch radius around them to intercept. Meaning that when a creature comes into the intercept bubble and is not charging the creature directly, so for example, we have here the wolf has until there the bubble, and for example, here's another creature there, and I want to go the 6 inches from here to there. I want to attack that. The wolf instead will move the 2 inches and intercept this creature. So you can hide your creatures behind other creatures. Same goes like this. If you have 2 creatures standing close together, and you have, for example, your wizard here, those creatures would actually protect the wizard. For example, here I want to charge the wizard to win the game, but instead I end up here, and both creatures would intercept me and go into close combat. So, if multiple creatures would attack, for example here, those creatures would fight all at the same time, and you determine it that way. Let's see. We have here this Wanderer. This is a skeleton, a 1/1 creature. And then let's say we have here a Johnny Sunstriker. This is here the Beastman. It's a 2/2 creature. And then, of course, again here the Warclamp Mastiff is that. So, in this case, we have here the Skeleton Warrior with 1 attack, and those 2 with 3 attacks. So, you combine those together and roll at the same time, and inflicting 3 wounds, meaning the Skeleton Warrior is dead. But the skeleton would also roll to determine, and he inflicts also a wound. So the owner of the creatures that has wounds inflicted to them can allocate them. In this case, he could allocate 1 wound either to the Beastman or the Mastiff. So the Mastiff has only 1 wound. If you choose him, he is dead. If you choose the Beastman, he has 2 wounds. He would be losing 1 life point and has 1 life point left, and the Skeleton Warrior would be removed from the game. So, next up, if more damage is dealt than 1 creature can take, for example, let's say instead of the Skeleton Warrior, we had here an Ogre fighting. He had 3 attacks, and he inflicted all 3 wounds. So let's say he rolled something like that. So the damage points would be dealt that way. First, the creature's owner determines 1 creature who gets the first damage. So for example, here the Beastman gets 1 damage, then a second one until he is dead, then he's dead, and the next damage would be dealt to the Warclamp Mastiff, and he's dead. So, in a case where only 2 wounds would be inflicted, it would be dealt like that. 1 damage point to him, then another damage point to him, and he dies, and he lives. You can't do it that way. 1 damage point to him, and 1 damage point to him, he dies, and he survives. That's not possible. Always take 1 miniature and deal the damage until it is destroyed, and then follow by the next creature. So, so then we have some special rules on creatures. First strike. We will start with first strike that we have here, for example, on the Warclamp Mastiff. First strike means normally, as I had explained previously, each creature attacks at the same time. But in this case, the first strike creature would strike first, and then you go to a second round of combat with the normal attacks. So, for example, let's say this ogre had 1 wound left. He was wounded several times during the game. And then you have those 3 creatures attacking. So, for example, those 2 were locked in combat before. The Beastman had also lost a life point, has only 1 life point left, and the ogre. And then the Warclamp Mastiff would run into close combat and attack. So, we start with a first strike attack from the Warclamp Mastiff. You roll, and for example, he inflicted a wound, like that, and the ogre would be destroyed before he had even the chance to strike. If he had not been wounded, like that, then the normal combat attacks would be determined. In this case, the ogre would strike with 3 attacks. Here would inflict 3 wounds, and then the Beastman would strike with 2 attacks, also claiming 2 wounds, but the Mastiff has already attacked in his first strike phase, and so the damage rolls from him are not added up to the Beastman. So, next on the list of special abilities is the ability Reach. Some creatures have the ability Reach. If you have the ability of Reach, this creature can make a shooting attack in 12 inches range, which inflicts 1 die of damage. So, for example, let's say this Beastman had a shooting attack, and he would shoot at the Mastiff, and you would roll simply 1d6, and the maybe throwing axe would pass by and do no damage, but if you roll then a 4+, like that, you would inflict 1 damage and kill the beast. If it has multiple life points, like for example this ogre here, you would deal 1 damage and reduce his life total by 1. So, also if you have the ability of Reach, you can intercept flying creatures, but this is something we come to later. Then regeneration. We have here on this skeleton warrior the regeneration special rule. So let's talk about that for a moment. So, for example, the Beastman and the skeleton warrior would fight against each other. So let's say the Beastman had rolled this for damage and the skeleton warrior this for damage. That means the skeleton warrior would be dead, the Beastman would be dealt 1 damage point, and normally the skeleton warrior would be removed. But if you have enough mana to use his regeneration ability, then you simply pay for it. He gains 1 life point back and is removed 1 inch from the opponent and can't move in his next turn, as if he was cast just recently. But other than that, he will survive with 1 life point. That is regeneration. You can do that every time he is dealt deadly damage, and if you have enough mana. So, this was regeneration. Then we go to lifelink. If a creature with lifelink, gain after a close combat on a 4+, 1 wound back, which it has previously lost. If the creature has still all wounds, the 1 wound is transferred to the mage itself. This can prevent the creature to die. If a creature evaded destruction that way, treat it as if it had regenerated. Lifelink also works with a reach attack. So, then some creatures have protection. For example, protection from white or protection from creatures or something like that. It doesn't matter if there is a protection ability on the creature, it has a 4+ armor save against wound loss. So, for example, let's say the Beastman had this ability, then after he was dealt 1 damage, you can roll 1d6, and on a 4+, he would save the wound, just like in Warhammer with an armor save. So, this I had already. Haste. In order to cast a creature, you have to pay the mana cost, just like in Magic the Gathering. And the creature is then placed in 6-inch radius around the mage. After that, the creature can't do anything. In the following turn, he can move up to 6 inches. Up to 12 inches if it can fly. But if the creature has the ability Haste, then the creature can move and attack as normal after it was cast, regenerated, or regenerated with lifelink. What else do we have here? So, the mage itself, here we have a mage, then here we have also a mage. Those are just miniatures that represent you, yourself, the player, the powerful spellcaster that can produce the creatures, cast them on the battlefield, and let them fight. And the goal of the game is to reduce the life total of this 0-20 creature to an amount of 0, and when you have made that, you have won the game. So he can also, like every other creature, move 6 inches on the battlefield in your turn. And every creature, like I said, is determined around him if they are cast on the battlefield. Also, the range for the instant and sorcery spells that deal damage with are determined from their position. So if you want to strike those kind of stuff against your opponent's mage, then you have to come quite close to your opponent. So, turn sequence. A turn starts the following. You have your deck, and then every player draws 7 cards. If you have not the amount of mana in your hand you want, then you can redraw. This is called a mulligan, just like in Magic. So the first mulligan is free, meaning you can throw your cards that you have in your hand on your graveyard, and then draw 7 new cards. Look at them. And if you're not approving with them, you can throw them also away on your graveyard and draw then 6 new cards. If you don't like them, throw them in the trash and draw again 5 new cards. So every time 1 card less after the first free mulligan. So if you are pleased with your cards, then you can shuffle your graveyard back into your library and start the game. So let's see, for example, we mix those cards here a little bit up. Then we draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. And we have that cards here on the hand. We have 3 lands, some creatures, and we can start the game. So every turn you can place one land card on the battlefield, and those produce your mana. So for example, we have one land. Like I said before, the mana symbols and the colors doesn't matter at all. So you can simply tap the land for mana and, for example, cast a Warclamp Mastiff. So in this case, let's erase here the battlefield really quickly. We have our two majors several inches away. So you start 36 inches away from each other, and then you can cast your creature within 6 inches around the mage. Let's say like that. So then let's go to the actual turn sequence. Part 1, untap lands and draw a card. So for example, this is then your second turn. Untap your lands and you draw another card. Cast instances, sorceries or creatures is part 2. So in this case you can drop a second land, cast another creature. So for example, the Minotaur costs 4 mana, you only have 2, you can't cast him. But you could cast, for example, this Beastman now. So you tap 2 lands and cast this Beastman on the battlefield, and whoop, it is cast. So let's say in the next turn your opponent has cast, let's say here, an Unstable Harpy, 2/2 creature, flying, lifelink. Your opponent doesn't have a Harpy miniature, but he says to you that he will says counts as, and uses a blue Screamer of Tzeentch as the creature. So this is his creature, and those are your 2 creatures here. So after the casting phase comes the movement phase. Every creature on their second turn can move up to 6 inches, 12 inches if they can fly. Like I said before, if they come into close combat range of a creature, they will fight. Then point 5, fight in close combat. Number 6, regenerate creatures if able. And number 7, end of turn, and then your opponent is playing. So, deck construction. Normally in Magic the Gathering, you are allowed to have each card 4 times, except of lands. Lands you can have as much as you want. But in this little game, you are reduced otherwise, so I decided the following. Creatures without any abilities may be included 10 times per creature. So, for example, here, this Minotaur. This Minotaur is a 3/3 creature without any abilities. This is just flavor text here. Meaning, you can have 10 Minotaurs in your deck. Creatures with 1 ability may be up to 6 times in the deck. So, for example, this Millennial Gargoyle is a 2/2 flying creature, can be up to 6 times in your deck. Creatures with more than 1 ability may be 4 times in your deck. So, for example, the Harpy here with flying and lifelink would be up to 4 times in your deck. Legendary creatures can be only once per deck, lands as much as they want, and the deck size must be 20, 40, 60 or 80 cards, determined by your opponent and you, what game you have decided on. So, let's see if I've forgotten something. Yeah, the reach we have talked about, regeneration. protection, lifelink, haste, yes, turn sequence, the mage, deck construction, flying. Okay, a creature with flying obviously can fly up to 12 inches, like I said before, but also the interception rule is a little bit different. If you have two creatures here standing around protecting the mage, a flying creature can actually fly over creatures that don't have flying and can so reach the opponent without being intercepted. Except, let's say this creature can fly. So it is a flying creature, and that way it can intercept as normal, but not this one. This one can't fly, and so it can't intercept. Also, other creatures with flying. So, for example, creatures with reach. That's what I wanted to say. Sorry. Also, creatures with reach can intercept flying creatures. So, for example, if they stay here, this creature has reach. He wants to pass by, and this creature would intercept the screamer while he is passing by. Not the wolf. He has not reach and not fly and can so not intercept. Okay. Also for deck construction, we have several creatures in Magic the Gathering with absolutely complicated and strange rules, and so I have reduced the amount of creatures that you can take in your deck. You can only take creatures in your deck that are with the following abilities: flying, haste, first strike, reach, regeneration, lifelink, or protection from a color. Yeah, that's it. So if a creature has more abilities than that, you simply ignore the abilities that are on this creature. Except, well, the skills that I've mentioned earlier. So, for example, if there stands this creature has flying and blah 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 top until end of turn and blah blah blah, you ignore that, just say this is flavor text and it doesn't matter. So you can take whatever cards you have. Also make sure that the miniatures you play with are somewhat appropriate to represent the miniatures on the card. So for example, it is a little bit strange to say this Beastman would be a dragon, would represent a dragon card, but to say, well, a cat creature is some kind of a beast man, so yes, that would be appropriate. And here this Warclamp Mastiff, yes, we can take a wolf for that. And here this is a skeleton soldier, yes, here skeleton soldier can be taken for that. Or, like I said before, here the Minotaur can be represented by an ogre miniature. But if you have a miniature, okay, use that. So, I hope you liked this game, what I have come up with. I will, in time, type on the, make the rules in text form and post it here in the video description. But until then, you have to use this video as a guideline. Still hope you like this game, and well, give it a try. And if you need magic cards, you can go to magiccard.info, and there you can search for magic cards, and also they have links on the cards for printing some proxies out for the first few games. Also, the creatures that we use here for this game are quite inexpensive creatures. You can find them for 10 cents on eBay. So to create a deck of 60 cards will take you half an hour clicking through the internet, and you will pay maybe $3 for that, including shipping. Okay, I hope you like this, and we see us in the next video. You're Alexandra.